Okay, so today we will continue from the page 15, 3.2 Hunger, Hardship and Popular Revolt. Now the years 1830s were of great hardship, difficulty, economic difficulty in Europe. Why? Because during the first half of the 19th century there was a huge increase in the population all across Europe, and so as a result what happened? Obviously more mouths to be fed, and also there were more seekers of job than jobs available. So employment opportunities were less, but the people looking for jobs were more in number. Then as a result, people from rural areas, they came to the urban areas in cities to find some work, and they started to live in the slum areas, which are substandard houses. So they started living there. Then the small producers, they also were having problems because they were facing competition from the imports of cheap machine made goods which came from England, and this was true in case of textile. If you remember, we did this while we were doing industrialization, that in India also the weavers, they faced the same problem because we had cheap machine made goods coming from Manchester. So here also, because industrial revolution, it came first in England, so they already had their factories working, so they sent this cheap machine made goods to other places, and so the weavers and the traders, they faced competition from all this. Now then in many regions where in Europe where there was still aristocracy, still the countries were not republics, still they were ruled by king and monarchs, then in those areas the farmers, they had to struggle because they had to pay so many taxes, and then dues also have to be paid, feudal dues have to be paid, and then they have to give so many service, they have to render so many services to their lords also. And in this condition, if they had a year or bad harvest, then it led to poverty in the towns and also in the countrysides, that is in the villages. Now the year 1848 was one such year, and there were food shortages and unemployment. So as a result, people, they did not have enough to eat, no job to do, so they came out on the streets and protesting and rebelling, and so it brought the population of Paris also out on the roads, and they demanded to see the king, and they wanted their demands to be met, and so barricades were erected, and Louis Philippe, he was forced to flee. So if you remember, Louis Philippe was given the chance to rule over France in a setup called as the constitutional monarchy, where his powers were under a constitution or limited by a constitution. So Louis Philippe also had to flee, and the National Assembly then proclaimed France as a republic and giving suffrage to all adult males, only males 21 years and above. And they also, National Assembly also guaranteed that it will give work to everyone, means it will provide employment to all. And so national workshops were set up to provide employment, they were set up to provide employment to all, were set up. Then earlier, few years earlier, like in 1845, there were some weavers in Silesia, and they led a revolt against their contractors. Now the problem was that the contractors, they gave them raw material, and then they gave them orders to finish those items, and but what happened, so though they supplied them with raw material and gave them orders, but they reduced their payment. So the money that they were getting to finish these products was very less, and whatever it was further reduced. And so a journalist, Wilhelm Wolff, he describes the events or the things which happened in a Silesian village as follows: that in a particular village which has about 18,000 people living there, and there their main employment, their main work was, livelihood was cotton weaving, and the workers were facing so many problems, and the people needed jobs. If you want to eat, you need to have money, and for that you need to do any job. Now this desperate need for jobs was taken advantage by the contractors, and what they did, though they gave them work to do, but they reduced the prices for the orders that they gave to the weavers. And so what happened on 4th June at 2 p.m., a large crowd of weavers, they came out from their homes and marched in pairs to the houses, the huge mansions of their contractor, and they demanded more money or higher salary, higher wages. And there they were treated with contempt and insult, and they were threatened also. And after this a group of these revolting weavers, they forced their way into the contractor's house and smashed the window panes, the furniture, the porcelain, means china bone, ceramic material. And another group, they broke into the storehouses and plundered the supplies of clothes that were kept there, and they tore it to small pieces, they tore it to shreds. And the contractor, he with his family had to flee to another neighboring village, but there also the people, they did not provide him shelter. And so he went and he returned 24 hours later after having requisitioned, means he got the official permission to use army on his behalf. And in the fight that followed, 11 weavers were shot dead. Now at the same time that the poor, the uneducated and the peasants, farmers, they were revolting, at the same time a revolt which was led by the educated middle classes was also going on. Now whatever happened in February 1848 in France, and it has removed, because of this event the monarch was abdicated, means removed from his place, and a republic was formed. Just now we studied about it, and it provided universal male suffrage, means all males 21 years and above now got the right to vote. And in other parts of Europe where still the nation states did not exist, like in Germany, Italy, Poland and Austro-Hungarian Empire, so men and women, they started to demand for national unification, means the formation of national states, and also a constitution. They wanted that their country should be ruled properly by a constitution, and their countries should be united. And so these people, they took advantage of the popular rebellion or the unrest that was going on, and they started to push in their demands for a parliamentary form of government, means a constitution should be there, freedom of the press should be there, and also the freedom of association, means the freedom of people to come together to form unions and associations, it should also be provided to the people. Now in the German state, a large number of political associations already had been formed, and the members of these associations or these groups were basically middle class people. So they were professionals, businessmen, popular artisans. Who is an artisan? Yes, class 10th, artisan. Yes, are you able to hear me? Mars is there? Why are you also silent? Ye- yes, good morning, Mars. Okay, Mars, do you know who is an artisan? Hmm. All right. So, huh. So, so why you people were quiet when you know the answer? All right. So artisans are skilled workers, those who make things using their hands, specially. All right. Okay, so all these people, the professionals, the businessmen and the prosperous artisans, they came together in the city of Frankfurt, and they decided that they will vote for an all German National Assembly. And so they voted for an all German National Assembly, and on 18th May 1848 they have elected some people. So 83 elected representatives, they marched towards that march in a festive procession, means they took out a procession in which these elected representatives, they were marching, and they went to take their position at the church of Saint Paul. And here they thought that they will organize or convene the meeting of the Frankfurt Parliament. And they also drafted a constitution for a German nation. And So basically, what was new in this constitution, that it will be headed by a monarch, but he will be under the parliament. So that, yes, what about now? Is it any better? Yes, class 10th. Is it any better now? Still you are not able to hear properly? Means you are not able to hear me at all, or is the voice lagging or freezing? Lagging. I know might be some network issues. Today even the it is might be because of the weather also, I don't know. Because in the first two classes again I did not have any problem. It is only with your class that we are always having problems. Hmm? Okay. Listen, I will send you the recording also, and when you go through it, there you will not have any difficulty in understanding, because the recording will not have any voice lagging and any voice freezing. All right. Uh, and now, has it become any better? Should I continue? Better now? Okay. All right. Okay, okay. All right. So I'll continue. So basically, these Frankfurt Parliament, they drafted a constitution, and now the constitution was such that it will be led, the country would be led by a monarch, but his powers would be limited by a parliament or a constitution. So when the deputies, means the assistant, they offered the crown to Frederick Wilhelm IV, the king of Prussia, he rejected it because he did not wanted his powers to be limited by any constitution or any parliament, and he joined the other kings to oppose this elected assembly. And the aristocracy and the military, they started to oppose this Frankfurt Parliament, and as their opposition it grew stronger, the strength of the parliament, it vanished, it eroded. Why? One more reason was that the parliament, it was dominated by the middle classes, and they did not listen to the demands of the workers and the artisans, so means the lower classes people, and so obviously they lost their support, and finally in the end the troops were called in, and the assembly, it was forced to disband or break up. Now, one more thing, that the issue of providing this political rights to women, it was one of the very controversial issues among the liberal movement. And in France also, they gave suffrage to all males, but no such right was provided to the women. And though women in large numbers, they have participated in all these revolutions over the years, and they have also formed their own political associations, they have founded their newspapers and taken part in political meetings and even demonstrations, but in spite of all their efforts, they were not given any right, even in the Frankfurt Assembly. And when the Frankfurt Parliament, it was convened in the Church of St. Paul, women, they were admitted only as visitors or as observers. They stood only in the visitors gallery. So if you look at page 18, figure 10, the women were there only there in the gallery, visitors gallery, whereas the men, they were seated downstairs and they were the Frankfurt Assembly. Okay. Now, though the conservative forces, they were able to suppress these movements which were led by the liberalists in 1848, but still the conservative forces were not able to restore or bring back the old social order, and the kings also now began to realize that this cycle of revolution and again repression and again revolution and again repression, it will continue till the time they grant some concessions to the liberal nationalists. And so in the years following 1848, the autocratic monarchies of Central and Eastern Europe, they began to introduce some changes that have already been established in Europe before 1815, and so serfdom, bonded labor, they were abolished in Habsburg empires and also in Russia, and more autonomy or freedom were granted to the people in these areas. Understood till here? Any questions, any confusion? All right. Okay. So we'll continue. Page 19, the making of Germany and Italy. So now we come to the unification of Germany. As we have already studied, it was a confederacy of 39 states. So it was not one complete unit. So now we will have a look at how Germany united as a nation state. Now after 1848, nationalism in Europe, earlier nationalism was associated with democracy and revolution, but later on nationalism, it came to be associated with state power, promoting state power and achieving domination in Europe. Now now even the conservatives and the monarchs also, they thought about uniting their country. Why? Because earlier it was broken up into so many small constituent units. Now when you unite, it will be one bigger unit having more power, and when you have more power, then obviously you will be able to exert your dominance over other regions also. Now this was the time when the European countries set out making colonies elsewhere in the world also. So they took advantage of all this, and so now nationalism also came to be associated with promoting state power and having domination, political domination over Europe. Now this can be seen in the way by which Germany and Italy, they became unified as nation states. Now as we have already seen that the nationalist feelings, they were already widespread among the Germans, and they in 1848 they tried to unite all the German nations. They tried to unite all the German nations which was to be governed by elected parliament. So we have just now studied about the Frankfurt Parliament, and now this initiative, though it was suppressed by the monarchy and the military, and also by the large landowners who were called as Junkers. So you should know who were Junkers. Sometimes for a 1 mark they ask you who were Junkers. So you should know they are the large landowners of Prussia who were called as Junkers. And then after that, though the Frankfurt Parliament, it did not succeed, but after that Prussia, it took on the leadership to provide for national unification, and its chief minister Otto von Bismarck. Now he took on this responsibility for the unification of German state, and this he did with the help of the Prussian army and the bureaucracy. What is bureaucracy? Yes. Yes. What is bureaucracy, or what you say as bureaucracy, whatever you understand? Any idea? Where is Yashasvi?
I'm not getting the word, ma'am.
Beta, bureaucracy. Are you able to get me? Bureaucracy. All right. So, in terms of India, tell me, what would we call the bureaucratic system? What is bureaucracy? The selected members of the executive, those who are not elected, right? Ah, so who are they? The civil servants, right? Okay. And so, with the help of the Prussian army and the bureaucracy, uh, he did this work. And so, three wars were fought over a period of 7 years, and these wars were fought with Austria, Denmark, and France. And finally, it ended in Prussia being victorious, and so it completed the task of unification. And so, finally, in January 1871, the Prussian king William I, he was proclaimed as the German emperor, and a ceremony was held in Versailles. And so, during the ceremony was constituted on 18th January 1871, and so there was a huge assembly which comprised of German princes and representatives also of the army. Then there were important Prussian ministers, including Ridhima, switch off your mic. Ridhima, mute your mic, beta. Okay, and so it also had some important ministers, including the chief minister Otto von Bismarck, and they all gathered in the hall of mirrors. It was unheated, means so it was very cold, and it was unheated also. So but still, because the thing was so great, the occasion so great, that the people, they still gathered on a bitterly cold morning in an unheated palace of Versailles, and there they proclaimed Kaiser William I of Prussia as the new German empire. Now, this nation building process, or the unification of Germany, it showed the strength or the dominance of Prussian state power, and this new Prussian state, it laid great emphasis on modernization. So they talked about modernization of currency, banking, legal and judicial systems in Germany, and henceforth Prussian measures and practices, they became a model for the rest of Germany. So this was the unification of Germany. Uh, I think I should continue with the unification of Italy, or should we stop here for today? When? But after this, this is the last. But this is supposed to be the last period. Okay. All right. So we'll end the class here today.